Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're taking a bit of a different turn, a recommendation actually, from Elon Musk himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a big fan of a book that might seem like an odd choice for us, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams.
Interesting. So we're diving into the world of science fiction comedy.
It's more than just a funny sci-fi story. It actually delves into some pretty deep questions about technology, intelligence, and even the meaning of life, the universe, all that.
Well, those are definitely relevant topics, especially with all the buzz lately about XAI and Grok.
Exactly. And that's why we're going deep on the Hitchhiker's Guide today. It's not just for kicks. It actually gives us a really interesting lens to view the future of AI, especially its impact on business and society.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing most of our listeners are familiar with the basics of the story, right?
Yeah.
Earth gets demolished, Arthur Dent hitches a ride across the galaxy, all that jazz.
Right. So we're going to skip the surface level stuff. We're digging into the deeper philosophical nuggets that Douglas Adams sprinkled throughout.
Sounds like fun. So we're looking at how this book, written decades ago, actually foresaw some of the key challenges and opportunities we're facing now with AI.
Exactly. Things like the dangers of relying too much on technology, the need for human-centered design, stuff like that. The Hitchhiker's Guide actually had some surprisingly insightful takes on these issues.
And of course, we'll connect these themes to what's happening right now. I mean, the debate around Grok's role in scientific discovery, the huge focus on AI ethics, all that's super relevant.
For sure. It actually builds on some of our past deep dives, too, like the ones we did on AI ethics and Tesla.
Right, right. Okay, but before we jump ahead too far, maybe we should set the stage a bit
Well,
for those who maybe haven't picked up the book in a while, or ever.
good point. So imagine a device, the guide itself, that has the answer to literally any question you could ever ask, like a futuristic AI knowledge base, but on a cosmic scale.
Okay, I'm picturing like a super advanced Wikipedia. Sounds pretty amazing, actually.
Right. But one of the things Arthur Dent discovers is that just having all the answers, it doesn't actually equal understanding.
Ah, I see. So it's not just about information. It's about what you do with it, how you apply it.
Exactly. And there's this great example in the book, Deep Thought. This supercomputer spends 7.5 million years calculating the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
7.5 million years. Wow. So what's the answer?
42.
42. That's it.
That's it. But the catch is, no one knows what the question is.
Ah, so that's brilliant. It's like we're so obsessed with getting answers that we forget to even figure out what we're really asking.
Right. And I think that's such an important point to remember, especially when it comes to AI today. We're building these incredibly powerful systems, but are we even asking the right questions?
And are we thinking about the implications, the ethical considerations, all those unintended consequences that could pop up?
It's almost like we're in danger of creating a real-life deep thought situation. AI that's technically brilliant, but actually kind of useless because we haven't figured out what to do with it.
Right. I see what you mean. And this is where The Hitchhiker's Guide really nails it, even though it's, a comedy. The guide, with all its infinite knowledge, a lot of times gives these absurd, unhelpful answers.
Because it's missing that human element, right? The context.
Exactly. It can't really interpret the information in a way that's meaningful for humans.
So even with all this knowledge, we're still at risk of missing the real meaning if we don't develop AI systems that get how humans actually work.
That's it. It's not just about processing power. It's about understanding how we communicate, how we make decisions, all the subtle things that make us human.
Which brings us to another big theme in The Hitchhiker's Guide, the whole idea of relying too much on technology.
Ah, yeah. And we see that play out with deep thought again, right? It's like a warning against blindly trusting computers without considering the human side of things.
Yeah. And that's where the book's humor hides some serious concerns about how we're developing AI. It's not just about making AI bigger and faster. It's got to align with human values.
It's about making sure it helps us, not replaces us entirely. Okay, I get the big picture. But how do we actually apply this to the real world, to businesses, to everyday life?
Okay, well, let's take customer service, for example. Imagine a chatbot that can, answer basic questions.
Right? We've got those now.
We do. But what if it could go further? Like actually understand when a customer is frustrated, anticipate their needs, offer really helpful support. That kind of understanding, it goes way beyond just processing data.
Yeah, you're talking about empathy, intuition. Those things are tough to program.
Exactly. And that's what we need to figure out. How do we move from simple automation to AI that can actually work with humans, like a true collaboration?
It's about AI complementing our strengths instead of just trying to copy us.
Exactly. And this brings us to another cool thing about The Hitchhiker's Guide, how it embraces the unexpected. I mean, Arthur Dent's journey is just full of these absurd, totally unpredictable situations.
He's kind of thrown into the deep end, isn't he?
He is, but he figures it out, he adapts, and he even manages to find joy in all the chaos.
It's that resilience, right? That ability to roll with the punches.
Yeah, and that's something we could all use a bit more of, especially in business. Things are changing so fast with AI and automation, we got to be ready for anything.
Being flexible is going to be key, that's for sure. And you know what? The Hitchhiker's Guide had this motto that I think perfectly sums up how we need to approach all this. Don't panic.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just a funny line, it's actually a pretty good philosophy.
Absolutely. Especially with all the fear and uncertainty around AI. We need to stay calm, stay curious, and remember that change is a part of life.
Okay, I'm seeing how The Hitchhiker's Guide, even with all the jokes, has a lot to say about the AI revolution. But how does Elon Musk fit into all this? I mean, with XAI and Grok.
Huh. Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Musk has said that The Hitchhiker's Guide really shaped his thinking, especially when it comes to problem solving and innovation.
And we've all heard about his love for simple, elegant solutions, which is definitely something you see throughout the book.
Oh, totally. And it's not just talk. He's actually putting this into practice. I mean, remember that SpaceX drone ship he named, Of Course I Still Love You.
Right. The original name was Just Read the Instructions, a direct reference to The Hitchhiker's Guide.
Exactly. And then there's Grok itself. The name Grok actually comes from a different sci-fi novel, but it still has that same idea of deep understanding that's so central to The Hitchhiker's Guide.
So it's not just about building AI that's powerful, it's about building AI that can actually grasp what things mean.
That's the goal. And it brings us back to the book's warning about, over-optimizing AI without really knowing why.
It's like building a super fast spaceship, but forgetting to put in a steering wheel.
Perfect analogy. It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff and forget about the human purpose behind it all.
And this ties back to Nick Bostrom's superintelligence, right? The whole idea that superintelligent AI could be a huge risk if we don't set the right goals from the start.
Right, so how do we avoid creating a deep thought situation in the business world, where we end up with AI that's super powerful but doesn't actually help us achieve anything meaningful?
That's a really good question. And I think The Hitchhiker's Guide actually gives us some clues. But before we get into that, maybe we should take a step back and look at the bigger picture of AI development today. So we were talking about this risk of over-optimizing AI without having those clear goals in mind. It seems like everyone's focused on making AI more powerful, but are we even thinking about making sure it actually aligns with what we want as humans?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? And I think the Hitchhiker's Guide has a really interesting take on this. Remember how the guide, even though it had all this information, would often give these totally absurd or unhelpful answers? Oh yeah, like telling Arthur the best way to deal with a Vogon attack is to just lie down and let it wash over you. Not exactly helpful advice in that situation.
Right. It highlights that even with all the knowledge in the universe, you still need something more to actually understand it. You need context, empathy, the ability to connect all the dots.
So are you saying that even these super advanced AI systems like Grok could fall into the same trap as the guide, giving technically correct answers that are just totally useless in real life?
It's a risk, for sure, and I think that's why it's so important to focus on developing AI that can go beyond just processing information. It needs to understand the meaning behind it, and how it impacts us as humans.
It's like the difference between knowing all the rules of grammar and actually being able to write a good story. You need more than just the technical stuff. You need that creativity, that intuition, that understanding of human emotions.
And that's where the book's focus on human resilience comes in, right? Arthur Dent, even though he's constantly facing these crazy, unpredictable situations, he never gives up. He learns, he adapts, he figures out how to make it work.
So are you saying we need to develop that same resilience as we deal with the rise of AI?
I think so. The world is changing so rapidly, and a lot of that change is being driven by technology, especially AI. If we want to not just survive, but thrive in this new world, we need to be adaptable, open to learning, and okay with not knowing everything.
It's almost like the Hitchhiker's Guide is giving us a playbook for the AI revolution. Don't panic, embrace the weirdness, and remember that even when things seem impossible, there's always a way forward.
Love it. Okay, but how do we actually put this into practice? I mean, if we're thinking about AI like Grok, and we want to avoid that deep thought scenario where the answers are technically correct but meaningless, what can we actually do?
Well, first of all, We need to be really clear about what we're asking. What problems are we actually trying to solve with AI? What outcomes do we want? And most importantly, how will all of this benefit humans?
So it's not just about defining our technical goals, it's about defining our ethical and societal goals too, right? We need to make sure AI aligns with our values as humans and that it's used to make our lives better, not worse.
Exactly. And that requires a shift in how we think about AI. We need to move away from seeing it as just a technical problem and start seeing it as a human-centered design problem.
So instead of asking, can we build an AI that can do X? We should be asking, should we build an AI that can do X? And if so, how can we make sure it's done in a way that's good for everyone?
Exactly. And this is where the book's satire of bureaucracy and all those mindless rules is so relevant. We can't just rely on algorithms and data sets to make decisions for us. We need to think critically, reason ethically, and have open conversations to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly.
It's like the Vogons in the Hitchhiker's Guide. They're obsessed with rules and regulations, but they have zero common sense or empathy. We don't want to create AI that works the same way.
Great point. We need AI that's not just intelligent, but also wise, compassionate, and able to understand the nuances of human experience.
Which brings us back to that idea of context. AI needs to be able to understand the context it's operating in, the values, the social norms, all the things that shape how we make decisions and interact with each other.
Exactly. And that means we need a much deeper understanding of things like psychology, sociology, even philosophy. We need to go beyond just the tech stuff and embrace the humanities as well.
So it's not just computer science anymore. It's like we need a whole new field of study, a mix of technology and the humanities to guide us toward a future where AI actually works for us.
I think that's a great way to put it. And honestly, it feels like Douglas Adams kind of saw this coming in The Hitchhiker's Guide. The book is full of characters who are wrestling with what it means to live in a world with advanced technology, trying to find purpose when everything is changing and often feels absurd.
It's like he's giving us a preview of our own future, where AI is changing everything and forcing us to ask some really big questions about what it means to be human.
And in the middle of all the chaos and uncertainty, The Hitchhiker's Guide offers this message of hope. It reminds us that even when we don't know the answers, we can still find joy, meaning, connection. We just need to keep looking.
But how does this all connect back to Elon Musk and his vision for AI, especially with XAI and Grok? He seems to be pushing the boundaries of AI development, but is he even thinking about these ethical questions?
That's a question a lot of people are asking, and it's causing some serious debate right now. Musk has been pretty vocal about his concerns about AI getting out of control. He's even talked about the need for government regulations to make sure AI is used for good.
Which actually echoes those warnings we see in The Hitchhiker's Guide about the dangers of technology without any safeguards. It's like Musk is channeling Douglas Adams when he says, we need to be careful not to create something that ends up controlling us.
Exactly. And you could argue that his whole reason for creating XAI and Grok is to try and steer AI development in a more human-centered direction. He's said that Grok is designed to be truth-seeking and to actually align with human values.
So it's not just about building AI because he can. It's about building AI that can help us understand the world better, solve complex problems, maybe even find answers to those big questions about life and the universe.
And that, in a way, is very much in line with the spirit of The Hitchhiker's Guide. It's about using technology to explore, to discover, and to ultimately understand ourselves and our place in all of this.
But even if AI is developed with good intentions, there are still people who worry about the risks. So how do we balance the potential benefits of AI with the need to make sure it doesn't become dangerous?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. But I think The Hitchhiker's Guide gives us a really good framework for approaching this. It encourages us to think critically, to question everything, and to not be afraid of the unknown. And maybe, just maybe, to have a little bit of fun with it all.
So instead of freaking out about the rise of AI, we should be seeing it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and yeah, maybe even to embrace a little bit of that cosmic absurdity.
Exactly. After all, as The Hitchhiker's Guide reminds us, the universe is a pretty weird and wonderful place, and the journey is often more important than the destination.
And speaking of journeys, we were talking earlier about AI and space exploration. It's so cool to see how SpaceX is already using AI for things like mission planning and designing spacecraft.
It's like Musk is taking those sci-fi concepts from The Hitchhiker's Guide and making them a reality. Remember, this is a book about galactic hitchhiking, about exploring the vastness of space, about encountering all sorts of crazy things along the way.
And it's all happening right now. It makes you wonder, what's next? I mean, if those sci-fi ideas are becoming reality, what else might be possible?
It really underscores how something that seems like pure entertainment, like a funny science fiction book, can actually spark real-world innovation. It's about thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
not being afraid to imagine the impossible.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive into the galaxy, let's give our listeners something to think about. Imagine Grok, with its constantly evolving intelligence, being tasked with coming up with the ultimate business strategy. What do you think would happen? What kinds of insights would it uncover? What are some of the potential pitfalls we might run into?
That's a great question. It really makes you think about how we define success, especially in a world where AI might be able to think better than we can. Would we just blindly follow Grok's recommendations, even if they seem strange or even totally crazy? Or would we get in our own way, letting our human biases and fears hold us back from something truly groundbreaking?
And this is where that don't panic motto comes back in, right?
Hmm,
As we're navigating this uncharted territory of AI-driven business, we need to stay calm, stay adaptable, and be open to new ways of thinking. We can't let fear stop us from exploring the full potential of AI.
absolutely. And who knows, maybe the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy can be our guide, reminding us to approach this whole AI thing with a sense of wonder, a good laugh, and a healthy dose of skepticism.
You know, it's pretty wild to think about how this book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is so funny and satirical, can actually teach us so much about AI and the future of business.
It's amazing how it predicted so many of the things we're dealing with now. It's like Douglas Adams had a time machine or something.
Yeah, it's almost like he saw this future where AI is everywhere and it's both exciting and kind of scary. I mean, on one hand, AI could help us solve some huge problems, but there's also that fear of the unknown. What if it goes wrong?
And that's what makes The Hitchhiker's Guide so great. It tackles those tough questions head on, but it does it with humor and wit, and it actually leaves you feeling hopeful.
It's like the book is saying, hey, the universe is a pretty weird place, so don't freak out. Just embrace the craziness and keep exploring.
Exactly. And that's what we're seeing with AI development right now, especially with Elon Musk and his vision for XAI and Grok. There's this drive to explore and understand, just like in the book.
And it's not just about exploring space, right? Grok is all about finding the truth, about understanding the world in a deeper way. But is there a risk, though, that we could become too reliant on AI? Like, what if we lose our own ability to think critically and solve problems?
That's a valid point. But think about Arthur Dent. He had the guide, which had all the answers, but he still had to use his own creativity and smarts to get through all those crazy situations.
Right, he didn't just blindly follow the guide's instructions. He figured things out on his own.
Exactly. So the lesson for us is that AI can be a super powerful tool, but we can't let it do all the thinking for us. We have to stay sharp, keep our critical thinking skills, and make sure AI works for us, not the other way around.
So it's not about replacing human intelligence. It's about combining it with AI, using both to make something even better.
Exactly. And I think Douglas Adams would have totally gotten that. His work reminds us that technology is only as good as the people using it.
Well said. And we can't forget about how influential The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has been. It's more than just a book, it's become a whole phenomenon. They're even making new adaptations of it.
It just shows you how timeless the themes are, how they keep resonating with people. And in a world where AI is becoming so important, I think its message is more important than ever.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
Don't panic. Stay curious, question everything, and remember, the journey itself is just as important as where you end up. The universe is full of surprises, good and bad, and with a bit of humor and a lot of curiosity, we can handle anything that comes our way.
That's a great way to put it. And until our next deep dive, don't forget your towels, folks. And remember, the answer to life, the universe, and everything might just be 42. We'll leave you to figure out the question,